All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on page 2 of the area and perimeter test, which is really mostly area, if not all. A circle with a radius of 10 inches is divided into 8 congruent sectors. What is the area of one sector? So circle, bad circle, radius 10. There's 8 of these evenly spaced around. They want to know the measure of one of them. Well, you need the arc degree. Remember the formula, x over 360 times pi r squared. So to get the arc, to get x, you're going to do 360 divided by 8 because they're evenly spaced. So each arc is going to be 1/8, if you will, of the circle's degrees, the 360, and that's 45. The radius, of course, they give you is 10. So again, simple formula, 45 over 360 times pi times 10 squared, these pens. So that's going to give you, put in your calculator, 39.27 or 0.3, depending on the rounding. Number 9, 2 ways to do this. One way is to do the big shape minus the hole that's cut into it. So as a big shape, you have 21 times 15, which is 315. Then you have this hole cut out here, and it's 9 by, and then the way to figure out the bottom is the whole bottom is 21. This is 5 and 9, which is 14, so that's 7. So 7 times 9 is 63, and you're going to subtract, which is 252 units squared. Another way to do that, if you wanted to do it slightly differently, would be to cut this into shapes like that. So over here you have 5 by 15, which is 75. On the bottom here, if this is 9 and that's 15, that's 6, so 7 times 6 is 42. And then here, 9 times 15 is 135. So you add 135, 75, and 42, which is 252. Same answer. Number 10, what is the exact area in square meters of the shaded region? Now, I actually didn't do this or mention this probably during the day in most of the classes, but I'll do both here. When it says exact area, that means you didn't want to round. So you're going to keep pi out of it, or that's one way you could do it. And what I simply mean is this. You're going to take the area of the big circle, which is simply 8 times, I'm sorry, let me rewrite that. Pi times radius squared, the radius is 8. So that should be pi times 8 squared. Now, if you want the exact answer, what you would do is get 64 pi and leave it like that. Then for the small, so that's the big circle. The small circle has a radius of 3. You would do pi times 3 squared, which is 9 pi, and you would subtract those, which would give you 55 pi inches squared as an exact answer. So if the question's similar, you would do that. You wouldn't multiply the pi. You would make it a whole bunch easier. Otherwise, you actually multiply through the pi. So pi times 8 squared, 64 pi becomes 201.062 minus pi times 3 squared, which becomes 28.2743. You subtract those, and you get 172. .8 basically, which is what 55 pi should multiply out to. So if it's multiple choice, the answer will be clear. If it's free response, even if it said exact area, I'd probably give it to you either one, as long as you're showing the work is correct. That's the main part, obviously. So triangle here, regular polygon, because you have the apothem, 2.9. If the bottom is 10, that's 10 times 3, which is 30. So area is 1/2 times apothem times perimeter. Pen's messing up, sorry. And 0.5 times 2.9 times 30 is 43.5. Again, no units. All right, let's finish up here. Number 12, quadrilateral. PXTU is a rectangle in the quadrilateral. UCXD is a rhombus. Find the area of the shaded region. So to me, I think what I would do here is area of the big shape, kind of like we did on 9 and 10, minus the area of the cutout shape, because you only want the shaded portion. Now, a couple things to look at here to help you find the length on the bottom here, the base, if you will. It says 10, I'm sorry, it says 4 here, this is 10. Now that would make this 6 from you to this point here. And then as a rectangle on the top, that would be 6. Which means on the opposite side, it's going to do the same thing, 6 and 6. So the entire base is 16. So 8 times 16 is 128. Now in the middle it says we have a rhombus, and normally rhombus, as we've learned recently, is diagonal measurements. But we also happen to have, and you can see it clearly, cut into 2 triangles and a rectangle in the middle. That's 8, that's 4, so in the middle, like for the rectangle, 8 times 4, 32. These 2 triangles, 6 by 8, so 6 times 8 is 48, half of that is 24, but there's 2 of them, so 48 together, 24 individually. Add those up, and you subtract that from the total, and you should get 48 square inches. All right? I mean, otherwise, I guess maybe even, probably easier than that now that I stop and think. You could have just done 6 by 8 divided by 2 and then double it, or really 6 times 8, yeah. Works either way, and that's the point. As long as you get to the right answer, like we talked about before, whether you do the long, complicated, or the shorter, quicker, knowing how to get it one way or another is important. Find the area of the graph figure. Break this up into 2 shapes. You don't need to know the slanted length, so you don't even have to worry about that part of it. So on the top, if you want, we'll just make this a trapezoid. Height of 4, base 1 of 5, base 2 of 4. So 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. On the bottom, 5 by 3, 1/2 times base times height is 7.5. Add those together, 24.5 units squared. And the last problem, find the area of the shaded region. So it's a square, and again, we're going to go right back to that area of the big shape minus what's cut out of it. So 12 by 12 is 144. Now for the circles, there's 4 of them, and if it's 12 across the bottom, it's 12 right there, which would make 6 and 6, which as a radius gives you 3. So there are 4 circles, each one whose area is pi times radius squared. So 4 times pi times 3 squared is 113.0097. And then you just subtract. And that should give you 30.9 if you round it off. Okay? So I hope that helped. Be ready for the test tomorrow. Remember, there will be a section without a calculator, but hopefully the problem should not be all that difficult. So good luck.